Last weekend, I put together a video looking at 10 textured watch dials under $1,000. In the comments section of that video, Erebus were mentioned. I've got a track record for being a sucker for purple dials, and there were some edits of my textured dial video where I was saying that texture was actually my third most important consideration in a watch, with colour coming in second. At any rate, it's certainly close for me. The Erebus Ascent Purple Helix is a watch that's been on my mind recently. I won't go into the Ascent right now because it's going to come up again later in the video, but to me, purple is quite a rare colourway when it comes to watchmaking, and that vexes me given that it's my third favourite colour behind black and green. I've been known on occasion to buy a watch simply because the dial is purple, so join me if you will to have a look at my recommendations when it comes to purple watch dials under the $1,000 price point. I'll clarify that the dials don't have to be completely purple, just make use of the colour, and I'll also say that the prices I'm quoting are either what I paid for the model if I own it, or the cheapest I can currently find them listed. There may be discrepancies in price, as for some models I'm converting from Great British Pounds, and I'm also only going to feature each brand once on the list for the sake of variety. In my quest for a purple watch, I gave the ST 1953 a go, as it has a lighter purple colourway, which is perhaps even more uncommon in horology than deeper shades, and I figured at this price point it couldn't hurt to give it a go. It doesn't disappoint in terms of build quality, but the sunburst dial doesn't always match well with the candy coloured bezel, depending on the lighting conditions. However, if you want a purple dial with an automatic movement, I don't think it's possible to achieve that at a lower price point than the Steel Dive. The Swatch Photonic Purple features a transparent dial so that you can see some of the quartz movement at work, a purple case and matching purple resin strap. In a video about purple watches, this is the least you can spend for a Swiss watch for the most purple. What I'd add about this model is that I do think the teal hands and indices give it a real little extra kick in terms of aesthetics. It's 34mm in diameter and just under 9mm thick, so it might be too small for some wrists. I really like having this model on the list, as it's purple but a much subtler tone that isn't as commonly used, and much like the Swatch, the entire model is purple. The GM S5600 MF6ER can be a little confusing to search for. Not only is that one long code name, but sometimes it's referred to as the Mystic Fog range and other times Midnight Fog. Nomenclature aside, this has a metal case, semi-transparent resin strap, a light for the display with afterglow, countdown and stopwatch functionality. It can show the date, weekday, and has both auto calendar and alarm functions. On top of that, the watch is water resistant to 200 meters, and perhaps most importantly, it's a G-Shock. You can't really go wrong with one. As we move up the list, there are going to be more interesting purple dials featured for sure, but if you're on a tight budget and it has to be purple, this is a really strong offering from Casio. I would just add here that the Twilight Tokyo model, GMW B5000 PB6JF, could be seen as a direct upgrade on this, but I can't in my right mind bring myself to feature a $600 Casio. It just feels a little wrong. Orient is one of the biggest budget brands that I'm yet to have any personal experience with, and it's definitely on my radar for a future purchase. While definitely purple, this is one of the more subtle and refined models on this list, though the code name is even more obtuse than Casio, and I'm not even going to try and attempt it. It's a little on the thick side at 13mm, but it is an automatic with 200 meters of water resistance, so that isn't out of the ordinary. I really like the subdued dial and think it fits really well with the naked stainless steel bezel. I dare say I think this would look and fit a little better on a bracelet than it does on a leather NATO though. At the very least, the provided strap is not going to help with the already elevated height of the watch. As I mentioned initially, this watch was the inspiration for this video, and I'm sure most people who are invested in horological YouTube will know that this brand comes from just one more watch. So far, Erebus have come out with two models. Their initial offering, the Origin, and now the Ascent. And it's worth mentioning the purple version of the Origin here, as to my eye it's the pick of the bunch when it comes to their dive watch range. The purple Helix itself has a gradient dial which is textured in a similar way to the Seiko Mojito, except here the brand logo has been incorporated on alternating rows to give a little more depth to design. I have to say I really like it, and I've come very close to ordering this exact model. Ironically, what's put me off so far is the pace of progress. To me, there's nothing wrong with the Origin, but it's a very functional looking design. The Ascent is a huge step up aesthetically, but before I get on board, I want to see what comes next. Horology is a hobby that's often prohibitively expensive. It's certainly not cheap, and if the next Erebus model is as much of a step up as the second, I want to keep my powder dry for that, no matter how much I love this purple dial. You might see this Batavi model and immediately think you're looking at a PRX clone. But while almost every single PRX advert features a lashing of neon purple, they've never put one together with a purple dial. While the Architect is the model I've chosen to feature here, as if you like the PRX and purple, it's a bit of a no-brainer, this Dutch boutique micro brand has a fair few purple watches in their range, like the French Lavender Geograph or the Los Angeles GMT. The Architect is just a little more angular than the PRX and features a sunburst purple dial broken up by a circular snowflake style engraving. Price wise it sits somewhere between the quartz and automatic PRX models, but boasts an automatic movement itself. Worth a consideration if you want a purple 70s inspired integrated sports watch. Xeric are a brand that loves to tell the time in innovative ways. I've mentioned their NASA themed models on the channel before. This automatic regulator, deep purple, isolates its timekeeping so that hours, seconds and minutes are all displayed independently. It features a Miyota 82S7 movement, a PVD coated hand finished case and sapphire crystal. The black to purple sunburst dial blends really well into that case, but it is worth noting that this model is a little on the large side, coming in at 42mm in diameter with a 48mm lug to lug. Still, if you're looking for purple and want a unique talking piece, something to really stand out from the rest of your collection, look no further. Zelos is another brand who should certainly be at the top of your list when it comes to looking for interesting dials, materials and colours. Certainly, when it came to choose a purple model from the brand, I was actually spoilt for choice. In the end, I've gone for the Hammered Nebula, as it's a combination of both purple and texture in its style. That texture itself looks very different depending on the lighting conditions, and it's quite hard to describe. The best way I can put it is it looks as though someone has tried to contain an underwater explosion, and the remaining shattered shards from the surface are what make up the dial. Now, that isn't remotely accurate, but it's the best description I could give. At any rate, it can be guaranteed to be a statement dial in any collection. Now, in my last video on Boulder Supply Company, I mentioned that some people don't like the idea of artificially aging watches. Those people had better look away for a moment, because therein lies the unique selling point of out-of-order watches. The company's slogan is "damaged in Italy," so you immediately get a flavour for what to expect. The case and bracelet have both been put through the out-of-order patented aging process, leaving me googling whether or not stainless steel can patina. At any rate, whatever the process is, it gives a unique look. It puts me in mind of the aesthetic of Bioshock. The real star of the show is the two-tone dial that's themed around being above or below a waterline. I don't think I've ever seen a dial tell a story in this manner before. It's a really neat concept. Perhaps the classiest watch on this list, the Seiko SRPK 75J1 is part of the Cocktail Time Presage range, which is famed for offering interesting dials well below their expected price. The Purple Sunset is no different. Its subtle but deeply rich gradient dial is designed to recreate the sunset over Tokyo, the inspiration for which created the drink that was the origin of this watch. If you want more information on the Cocktail Time range, I have featured a video of my mojito on the channel before. Back to a model that I have some personal experience with. This watch is perhaps the least purple on the list, but its accents and secondhand give off some really cool Black Panther vibes without having a gaudy figurine popping out of the dial at you. Actually, this Super Seawolf model is a collaboration with Liberty, a historic London retailer, and although it might be the least purple model on the list, if you want something professional for the office with a hint of purple to it, this would definitely get my recommendation. At the very top end of the budget sits the Formex Field Automatic Ultraviolet. The way you view this is largely going to depend on the way you view Formex as a brand. If you consider them to be around the same level of Hamilton in terms of prestige, build quality and design aesthetics, then $1,000 for a field watch feels like an overpay. However, if you see them as closer in quality to more luxury brands like IWC, suddenly the Field Watch Automatic becomes an absolute bargain. At the very least, it is quite clear that a great deal of care and attention has been put into this watch. The layered dial, titanium hardening, and sharp design language are evidence of that. I am in two minds about the choice of font for the numerals, but one thing I am sure of is the purple factor here, especially on the colour matching leather strap. I think this is a really clear tone that's going to stand out from a crowd. It isn't subtle, but you wouldn't be buying a watch like this because you wanted to be subtle. Well, that about wraps up this video. Are there any standouts that you think I've missed from this list? And what do you think of this video style? I certainly enjoy making videos like this, and I'm open to suggestions if you want to see any other colours or features focused on in the next one. As ever, thank you for your time. The channel has been growing steadily in the last few weeks, and we're getting closer and closer to that first milestone of 1,000 subscribers. I'd love your help getting there, and if you enjoyed the video, a like is always appreciated too.